The signal came through at 3 in the morning, ship time. Commander Jake Miller was sleeping in his quarters when the alarm pulled him from his dreams. He had been dreaming about Earth again, about the smell of rain on hot pavement, about the way the sun looked when it set over the flooded Pacific Ocean. But the alarm did not care about his dreams. He was on his feet and moving before his eyes were fully open. 20 years in the United Earth Navy had taught him to wake up fast. His body knew what to do even when his mind was still catching up. The bridge of the relentless dawn was alive with activity when he arrived. Red warning lights flashed against the walls. Officers moved between stations with quick, practiced steps. The main screen showed nothing but empty space and distant stars. "Report," Jake said. His voice was calm. It was always calm. His crew needed him to be calm. Lieutenant Emma Cole turned from her communication station. She was young, maybe 25, but she was the best communications officer Jake had ever worked with. Her fingers moved across her controls like she was playing a piano. "We picked up a distress signal, Commander," she said. "It's coming from the Calori system, about 6 hours away at maximum speed." Jake walked to the center of the bridge and looked at the main screen. The Calori system. He knew that place. Everyone in the Navy knew that place. It was home to the Volani Confederation, one of humanity's oldest allies among the stars. The Volani were a peaceful species. They looked something like birds, with soft feathers and delicate bones. They stood about 4 feet tall and spoke in voices that sounded like singing. They had been trading with humans for almost 50 years. They sold beautiful artwork and rare minerals. Humans sold them medicine and protection. "Play the signal," Jake said. Emma touched a button. The bridge fell silent as the message filled the room. It was not words. Not at first. It was screaming. It was the sound of buildings falling and fire burning and people dying. Then, through the chaos, came a voice. It was a Volani voice, high and musical, but twisted with fear. "Please, anyone. They came from the dark. They are killing us. Please, help, please." The message cut off. Static replaced the screaming. Then there was only silence. Jake stood very still. Around him, his crew waited. They were watching him. They were waiting to see what he would do. "Emma," he said quietly, "do we know who attacked them?" Emma's fingers danced across her station. Data scrolled across her screen. "The signal contains embedded data packets, Commander. Give me a moment to decrypt them." Jake waited. The bridge was so quiet, he could hear the hum of the ship's engines far below his feet. He thought about the Volani ambassador he had met 3 years ago. A small, gentle creature named Keeley, who had given him a gift, a small statue carved from blue crystal. It sat on his desk in his quarters. The ambassador had told him it was a symbol of friendship. "I have it," Emma said. Her voice sounded strange, tight. "The attackers are identified as the Dravosi Dominion." Jake felt something cold move through his chest. He had heard that name before. Everyone in the Navy had heard that name. The Dravosi were a conquering empire that controlled space far beyond human territory. They had destroyed 12 civilizations in the past 100 years. They took what they wanted and killed anything that stood in their way. "What do we know about them?" Jake asked. Emma pulled up more data. "They evolved on a Class 3 world, Commander. Low gravity, mild climate, no natural predators. They developed space travel about 2,000 years ago and have been expanding ever since." Jake nodded slowly. A Class 3 world. That meant the Dravosi had grown up on a paradise planet. A world where everything was easy. Where nothing ever tried to kill them. Earth was different. Earth was classified as a Class 12 world. A death world. Humans had evolved in a place where everything was trying to kill them. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent. The animals were dangerous. Disease was everywhere. And yet humans had survived. They had more than survived. They had conquered their world and reached for the stars. The Dravosi had never met a species from a death world. They had never met humans. How far is the main Dravosi fleet from Volani space? Jake asked. Unknown, Commander. But based on the signal, there is at least one Dravosi battle group in the Kalori system right now. Jake turned to his navigation officer, a quiet man named David Brooks. How fast can we get there? 6 hours at maximum speed, sir. 6 hours. Jake closed his eyes and thought about what he was going to do. He thought about the rules. He thought about protocol. He thought about waiting for orders from Earth Command. Then he thought about the screaming in that signal. He thought about gentle, bird-like creatures being slaughtered by conquerors. He thought about the blue crystal statue on his desk. Set a course for the Kalori system, he said. Maximum speed. David's hands moved across his controls. The ship shuddered as the engines roared to life. Stars began to stretch and blur on the main screen. Emma, Jake said. Open a channel to Earth Command. Priority 1. Emma nodded. Channel open, Commander. Jake stood straight and spoke clearly. He knew his words would travel across the stars. He knew they would reach the most powerful people in human space. He knew that what he said next would change everything. This is Commander Jake Miller of the United Earth Navy vessel, Relentless Dawn. The Lani allies are under attack by the Dravosi Dominion. Millions are dying. I am moving to assist. He paused for a moment. Then he continued. I am requesting full Armada mobilization. All available ships. All available personnel. The Dravosi have made a terrible mistake. They have attacked our friends. They do not know what they have done. He took a deep breath. They do not know what humans are. They do not know where we come from. They do not know what we survived to reach the stars. But they are about to learn. Jake looked around his bridge. Every officer was watching him. Their eyes were hard. Their jaws were set. They understood. Tell Earth Command this, Jake said. Tell them the Deathworlders ride to war. Emma closed the channel. The message was sent. Across the vast emptiness of space, it raced toward Earth at the speed of light. And behind it, cutting through the void like a sword, came the Relentless Dawn. 6 hours to the Kalori system. 6 hours until they reached their friends. 6 hours until the Dravosi Dominion learned why humans were called Deathworlders. Jake. Miller sat down in his command chair and watched the stars blur past. Somewhere ahead, the Volani were dying. Somewhere ahead, an empire that had never known fear was about to learn what fear meant. The signal had come through at 3 in the morning. By dawn, the galaxy would be different. The humans were coming. The message from the Relentless Dawn reached Earth in 7 hours. It passed through relay stations and communication hubs. It crossed the empty space between stars. And when it arrived, it set the entire planet on fire. Admiral Rachel Torres was eating breakfast when her phone rang. She was a tall woman with gray hair and dark eyes that had seen too many battles. She had been in the Navy for 35 years. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt. She had led the defense of Colony 7 when raiders attacked. She had buried more friends than she could count, but she had never seen anything like this. She stood in the Great Hall of the United Nations Space Council, looking at the faces of the most powerful people on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists. They were all watching her. They were all waiting. The Dravosi Dominion has attacked the Volani homeworld, she said. Her voice filled the room. Early reports suggest casualties in the millions. Commander Miller of the Relentless Dawn is moving to assist. He has requested full Armada mobilization. A man in a dark suit raised his hand. He was the Secretary General, the leader of the United Nations. Admiral Torres, what do we know about the Dravosi? Rachel touched a button on her tablet. The main screen behind her lit up with images and data. The room fell silent as people began to read. The Dravosi Dominion controls approximately 300 star systems, Rachel said. They have conquered 12 known species in the past century. Those species no longer exist. They were either enslaved or exterminated. She touched another button. New images appeared. They showed Dravosi soldiers. They were tall creatures, almost 7 feet high, with gray skin and large black eyes. They looked powerful. They looked dangerous. The Dravosi evolved on a Class 3 world, Rachel continued. Low gravity. Perfect climate. No predators. They believe themselves to be the ultimate warriors in the galaxy. They have never lost a war. She paused and looked around the room. They have also never fought humans. The Secretary General leaned forward. What do you mean, Admiral? Rachel allowed herself a small smile. The Dravosi come from a paradise world. Everything was easy for them. But Earth is a Class 12 world. A death world. We evolved in a place that tried to kill us every single day. Our gravity is 3 times stronger than theirs. Our sun gives off radiation that would blind them. Our weather would crush them. Our diseases would destroy them. She pulled up new data on the screen. Medical information. Physical comparisons. The Dravosi have hollow bones. We have solid bones reinforced by our crushing gravity. The Dravosi cannot see in low light. We evolved as persistence hunters who chase prey for days in the dark. The Dravosi cannot handle physical stress for long periods. Humans can fight for hours without stopping. We can heal from wounds that would kill any other species. We can survive in conditions that would destroy the Dravosi in minutes. The room was very quiet. The Dravosi think they are apex predators, Rachel said. They are wrong. They have never met the real predators of the galaxy. They have never met us. The Secretary General stood up. His face was hard. How long until we can mobilize the Armada? 48 hours for the first wave, Rachel said. Full mobilization in 1 week. Do it. The order went out across the solar system. It reached Mars and the asteroid belt. It reached the colonies on Jupiter's moons. It reached the deep space stations where miners and engineers worked in the cold darkness. Everywhere, the message was the same. The Villani were dying. The humans were coming to help. On the military station orbiting Mars, Sergeant Marcus Webb received his orders. He was a big man with scars on his face and hands that had broken bones and pulled triggers in a dozen different wars. He led the 4th Orbital Drop Division, the most elite fighting force in human space. His soldiers gathered around him in the briefing room. There were 200 of them, men and women who had volunteered for the hardest missions. They had been trained to fight in any environment. They could drop from orbit onto a planet's surface. They could fight in zero gravity. They could survive in temperatures that would freeze or burn any other creature. Listen up, Marcus said. His voice was rough like gravel. We're going to war. An alien empire called the Dravosi has attacked our friends. They're killing millions of innocent people. Our job is to stop them. A young soldier raised her hand. Her name was Amy Foster, and she was one of the best engineers in the division. Sergeant, what do we know about the enemy? Marcus smiled. It was not a friendly smile. We know they come from a paradise world. We know they have hollow bones and weak hearts. We know they cannot see in the dark. He looked around the room at his soldiers. We know they have never fought humans before. The soldiers began to grin. They understood what that meant. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Park was packing her equipment. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. She had spent years learning about different species across the galaxy. Now she was being sent to join the fleet. Her orders were simple. Study the Dravosi. Find their weaknesses. Help the soldiers kill them. She looked at the data on her computer screen. The Dravosi were interesting creatures. They had evolved to be fast and strong on their low-gravity world. But their bodies were not built for long fights. Their hearts could not pump blood fast enough during extended stress. Their bones broke easily under pressure. Their eyes were sensitive to bright light. In a short battle, the Dravosi would be dangerous. But humans did not fight short battles. Humans were persistent predators. On ancient Earth, human hunters had chased animals for days until the animals died from exhaustion. Humans could run and fight and keep going long after any other creature would have collapsed. The Dravosi did not know this. They had no idea what was coming for them. Across human space, the Armada gathered. Battleships powered up their weapons. Carriers loaded fighters and bombers. Destroyers formed into groups that would hunt down enemy ships. Transport ships filled with soldiers and supplies. It was the largest military force humans had ever assembled. 300 warships in the first wave. More than 500 in the second. And behind them, a steady stream of reinforcements that would keep coming until the war was over. The message spread through human channels like fire through dry grass. News reporters told the story. Social media exploded with posts and videos. People who had never thought about alien wars suddenly cared very much. Someone had attacked humanity's friends. Someone had made humanity angry. In bars and coffee shops. In factories and offices, in homes across a dozen worlds. The same words were repeated again and again. Deathworlders were going to war. And the Dravosi had no idea what that meant. Admiral Rachel Torres stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Earth's Fury. It was the largest battleship ever built by humans. 2 miles long, armed with weapons that could crack planets, crewed by the best officers in the Navy. She looked at the stars on the main screen. Somewhere out there, the Vellani were suffering. Somewhere out there, the Dravosi were celebrating their easy victory. They would not be celebrating for long. All ships, Rachel said into the fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Torres. The Armada is assembled. In 6 hours, we jump to Vellani space. When we arrive, we will show the Dravosi what happens when you attack our friends. We will show the galaxy what Deathworlders do when they go to war. She paused. Around her, the bridge crew stood at attention. Their eyes were bright with purpose. Make ready for battle. We ride at dawn. The storm was gathering, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it. The relentless dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Calori system. Commander Jake Miller stood on the bridge and watched the main screen fill with stars and planets and horror. The Vellani homeworld hung in space like a blue and green jewel. But it was burning. Even from this distance, Jake could see the orange glow of fires spreading across the continents. Smoke rose from cities that had stood for thousands of years. The peaceful, beautiful world was being destroyed, and in orbit around it, the Dravosi fleet waited. How many ships? Jake asked quietly. Lieutenant Emma Cole looked at her sensors. Her face went pale. 312 warships, Commander. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, plus transport ships filled with ground troops. 300 ships. Jake had brought 6. The Relentless Dawn and 5 escort vessels. It was not enough. It was not even close to enough, but the main armada was only 4 hours behind them. They just had to survive until help arrived. They're hailing us, Commander, Emma said. Jake nodded. Put them on screen. The main display flickered and changed. A Dravosi face appeared. It was tall and gray, with black eyes that reflected no light. The creature wore gold armor decorated with the symbols of conquest. It looked down at Jake like he was an insect. "Unknown vessels," the Dravosi said. Its voice was cold and cruel. "You have entered space claimed by the Dravosi Dominion. Identify yourselves and surrender, or you will be destroyed." Jake stood very still. He looked at the alien on the screen. He thought about all the species the Dravosi had killed. He thought about the Vellani dying on the planet below. He thought about his crew, waiting for his orders. Then he smiled. "I am Commander Jake Miller of the United Earth Navy," he said. "I am here to inform you that you have made a serious mistake. You have attacked our friends. You have killed innocent people. And now you will pay for what you have done." The Dravosi commander laughed. The sound was harsh and ugly. "You have 6 ships. We have 300. You are nothing. You are prey. You will be crushed like all the others." Jake's smile grew wider. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator about to strike. "You know nothing about us," Jake said. "You come from a world where everything was easy, where nothing ever tried to kill you, where life was soft and gentle." He leaned forward. "We come from a world where everything tried to kill us, where we had to fight every day just to survive, where we learned to hunt in the dark and run through fire and keep fighting when any other creature would die." He raised his hand. Behind him, his crew began preparing for battle. "You think you are predators," Jake said. "You are wrong. You are prey. And the real predators are here now." He nodded to Emma. She pressed a button. The channel stayed open, but now new sounds filled the Dravosi bridge. The sounds of Earth's ancient war drums. The deep rumbling beat that human warriors had used for thousands of years. The sound that meant death was coming. Jake gave his final order. "All ships, attack." What happened next was something the Dravosi had never seen before. The 6 human ships did not wait. They did not try to negotiate. They did not run away. They charged directly into the heart of the enemy fleet. The relentless dawn screamed through space like a bullet. Enemy fire rained down on it. Explosions tore at its armor. Systems failed and damage spread. But the ship kept going. Humans built their ships like they built themselves. Strong, hard to kill, able to take punishment that would destroy anything else. Lieutenant Tom Reed led his fighter wing into the chaos. He was a young pilot with fast hands and no fear. His fighters were small and quick, designed to move through debris and enemy fire that would kill Dravosi pilots instantly. The Dravosi flew in straight lines. They fought in ordered formations. They expected their enemies to do the same. Tom and his pilots did not fly in straight lines. They twisted and turned and spun through the battle like leaves in a storm. They used asteroids and wreckage for cover. They flew so close to enemy ships that the Dravosi weapons could not track them. The Dravosi began to die. On the relentless dawn, Chief Engineer Amy Foster worked miracles. The ship took hit after hit. Systems failed. Fires broke out. But Amy was everywhere at once, fixing what was broken, keeping the weapons firing, keeping the shields up. "We've lost Section 7, someone shouted. "Seal it off and keep fighting," Amy shouted back. "The main reactor is overheating. Push it harder. We can take it." She was right. Human ships were built to survive punishment that would destroy alien vessels. The relentless dawn kept fighting even as pieces of it burned and broke away. And then came the boarding action. Sergeant Marcus Webb and his Marines had arrived on one of the escort ships. When a Dravosi cruiser got too close, Marcus made a decision. "We're going in," he told his soldiers. "Boarding pods, now." The Marines loaded into small metal tubes and launched themselves across the gap between ships. They slammed into the side of the Dravosi cruiser and burned through the hull with cutting torches. What happened inside that ship became a legend. The Dravosi were taller than humans. They were used to winning every fight. They had conquered 12 species and never met real resistance. They were not ready for Marcus Webb. The Marines moved through the ship like shadows. They could see in the dim emergency lighting that made the Dravosi stumble and bump into walls. They could fight for hours without getting tired, while the Dravosi gasped for breath after minutes. They took wounds that would have killed Dravosi soldiers and kept fighting. Marcus faced the Dravosi captain on the bridge. The alien was huge, almost 8 feet tall, with claws that could tear through metal. It charged at Marcus with a scream of fury. Marcus waited until the last second. Then he stepped aside and grabbed the captain's arm. He used the alien's own strength against it. He threw it to the ground with a crash that broke bones. The Dravosi captain looked up at Marcus with fear in its black eyes. It had never felt fear before. It did not know what to do. "What are you?" the captain whispered. Marcus knelt down beside it. "We are humans," he said. "We are Deathworlders, and you should never have attacked our friends." Back in space, the battle was turning. The Dravosi fleet was breaking apart. Ships were running away in all directions. The commanders who had laughed at 6 human ships were now screaming for retreat. Commander Jake Miller stood on his damaged bridge and watched the enemy flee. His ship was hurt. His crew was tired. But they had won. Emma Cole looked at her sensors. "They're running, Commander. The entire fleet is retreating." Jake nodded. He felt no joy, only cold satisfaction. "Let them run. They need to survive long enough to tell others what happened here." The main armada arrived 4 hours later. Admiral Rachel Torres and 500 warships found the battlefield scattered with burning Dravosi vessels. The enemy was gone. The Volani homeworld was still standing. Jake made his report to Admiral Torres. "They weren't ready for us," he said. "They had no idea what they were fighting." Rachel looked at the destruction on her screen. Now they know. She was right. Across the galaxy, the surviving Dravosi were spreading the news. They were telling everyone what they had seen. They were sharing a single word that would echo through empires and civilizations. Deathworlders. The humans were Deathworlders. And they were coming. High Sovereign Veltris ruled the Dravosi Dominion from a throne made of the bones of conquered species. He had been in power for 60 years. He had watched his empire grow from 100 systems to 300. He had never lost a war. He had never known defeat. Until now. The reports from the Volani system made no sense to him. 300 ships destroyed by 6. Warriors who could see in the dark. Soldiers who kept fighting after being wounded. Ships that absorbed damage that should have torn them apart. Impossible. All of it was impossible. It was a trick, Veltri said to his advisors. An ambush. A surprise attack. Nothing more. His advisors nodded. They always nodded. They had learned long ago that disagreeing with Veltris meant death. "The humans caught our forces off guard," one advisor said carefully. "With proper preparation, we will crush them." Veltris stood up from his throne. He was old but still powerful, with gray skin covered in ritual scars and black eyes that burned with anger. "Then we will prepare. Call every ship in the Empire, every soldier, every weapon. We will gather the largest fleet in our history and destroy these humans before they spread further." The order went out across the Dravosi Dominion. From 300 star systems, warships began to move. 10,000 vessels. 50 million soldiers. The full might of an empire that had never been defeated. High Sovereign Veltri smiled. No species could stand against such power. No species had ever stood against such power. The humans would learn their place, just like all the others. He did not know how wrong he was. Admiral Rachel Torres received the intelligence reports in her command center on the Earth's Fury. She read them carefully, then read them again. 10,000 ships. 50 million soldiers. It was the largest enemy force humanity had ever faced. Around her, officers waited nervously. They had all seen the numbers. They all understood what they meant. Comments? Rachel asked. Commander Jake Miller stepped forward. He had joined her staff after the Battle of Valani. His experience with the Dravosi was valuable. They're doing exactly what we expected, Admiral. Throwing everything they have at us in one massive attack. They don't know any other way to fight. Rachel nodded. They're used to winning through overwhelming force. They've never had to be clever, but we have. That was true. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other. They had developed tactics and strategies that no other species had ever imagined. They knew how to win battles against larger forces. They knew how to use terrain and timing and surprise. They knew how to break an enemy's spirit. Where will they attack? Rachel asked. David Brooks, her tactical analyst, pulled up a star map. He pointed to a swirling cloud of gas and dust between human space and the Dravosi Dominion. Here, the Korath Nebula. It's the only clear path for a fleet that size. They'll have to pass through it to reach our territory. Rachel studied the map. The nebula was vast, filled with radiation and dust that would interfere with sensors and communications. It was a dangerous place to fight, but it was also the perfect place for an ambush. How long until they arrive at the nebula? 3 weeks, Admiral. Rachel smiled. It was a cold, calculating smile. Then we have 3 weeks to prepare a welcome for them. The human fleet moved to the Korath Nebula. 800 warships now, with more arriving every day. They spread out through the nebula, hiding among the gas clouds and dust fields. They planted mines and sensor traps. They set up communication relays that would work when enemy systems failed. And they waited. The Dravosi fleet arrived on schedule. 10,000 ships emerging from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. It was an impressive sight. A terrifying sight. Enough firepower to destroy planets. High Sovereign Veltris watched from his command ship at the center of the fleet. Where are the humans? He demanded. His sensors showed nothing. The nebula was interfering with everything. Radiation from dying stars filled the space with noise. Dust clouds blocked their view. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. They may have fled, High Sovereign, an advisor suggested. They may have realized they cannot win. Veltris shook his head. No, they are here. I can feel it. Find them. He gave the order to advance. 10,000 ships moved deeper into the nebula, sensors searching for any sign of the enemy. They did not have to search for long. The first attack came from the darkness. Human destroyers, hiding behind a dust cloud, launched missiles at the Dravosi flank. 30 enemy ships exploded before anyone knew what was happening. Then the destroyers vanished back into the dust. Return fire! Veltris screamed. His ships fired blindly into the nebula. Their weapons hit nothing but gas and dust. And while they were firing, another attack came from a different direction. More ships destroyed. More chaos. Admiral Rachel Torres watched the battle unfold from her command center. She was fighting a war of patience, a war of attrition, the kind of war humans had fought for thousands of years. Rotation Alpha, engage, she ordered. Rotation Beta, fall back and rest. This was the key to human warfare. They fought in shifts. While one group of ships attacked, another group rested. Humans could keep this up for days, weeks if necessary. Their bodies were built for endurance. The Dravosi could not do this. Their crews worked constantly, never resting, never recovering. After 12 hours of fighting, they were exhausted. After 24 hours, they were making mistakes. After 48 hours, They were barely functional. Nicole Gray, the weapons officer on the Earth's Fury, reported to Admiral Torres. "Enemy ships are slowing down, Admiral. Their fire is becoming less accurate. They're getting tired." Rachel nodded. "Good. Increase pressure. Keep them moving. Don't let them rest." The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves hunting prey. They attacked from all sides, then disappeared. They struck at supply ships and damaged vessels. They kept the Dravosi constantly on edge, constantly reacting, never able to rest. On the third day, Veltries ordered a retreat. He had lost 4,000 ships. His crews were exhausted. His commanders were panicking. For the first time in his life, he tasted defeat. "Fall back," he commanded. "Regroup outside the nebula." But when his fleet tried to retreat, they found that they could not. Human ships had moved behind them during the battle. FTL interdiction devices, technology born from centuries of humans fighting humans, had sealed the nebula. There was no escape. "What have they done?" Veltries whispered. His advisor stared at the sensor readings in horror. "They've trapped us, High Sovereign. We cannot jump to faster than light. We cannot run." The final battle lasted 2 more days. The Dravosi fought with the desperation of trapped animals. But they were tired and confused and afraid. The humans were rested and organized and patient. When it was over, fewer than 1,000 Dravosi ships remained. They surrendered unconditionally. High Sovereign Veltries was taken prisoner aboard the Earth's Fury. Admiral Rachel Torres met him in the brig. She looked at the creature who had conquered 12 species, who had ordered the deaths of billions, who had thought himself invincible. "You lost," she said simply. Veltries looked at her with eyes that no longer held any pride. "How?" he asked. "How did you do this? You are just primitives. Just animals from some backwater world." Rachel leaned forward. "We are Deathworlders," she said. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages and plagues and predators. We survived each other. And now we have survived you." She turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "The war is over," she said. "You will come to Earth. You will sign a treaty. And you will learn that there are worse things in this galaxy than the Dravosi Dominion." She walked away, leaving the fallen emperor alone with his defeat. The Battle of Korath. Nebula was the largest military defeat in Dravosi history. 10,000 ships had entered the nebula. Fewer than 1,000 had come out. The humans had won. And now the whole galaxy knew what Deathworlders could do. The shuttle carrying High Sovereign Veltries descended through Earth's atmosphere on a clear summer day. Inside, the former ruler of the Dravosi Dominion pressed himself against his seat as the gravity pushed down on him. It was crushing, terrible. He felt like his bones might break at any moment. "Is this normal?" he asked the human guard sitting across from him. The guard, a young woman named Sarah, shrugged. "Normal for us. This is what we live in every day." Veltries closed his eyes and tried to breathe. The air was thick and heavy, filled with moisture and oxygen that burned his lungs. The sunlight coming through the windows was painfully bright, even with the protective film covering the glass. And the heat. The terrible heat that made his gray skin feel like it was melting. This was Earth. This was a death world. And he was finally beginning to understand what that meant. The shuttle landed in New Geneva, the capital of the United Earth government. When the doors opened, Veltries stepped out onto the landing pad and nearly collapsed. The gravity pulled at him with invisible hands. His legs trembled. His heart raced in his chest. Around him, humans moved easily. They walked and talked and laughed like the crushing weight meant nothing to them. Children ran across a nearby field, playing games that required speed and strength that Veltries could not imagine. "This way." "High Sovereign," said Ambassador Chris Walsh. a tall man with kind eyes and a calm voice. He was the human diplomat assigned to handle the peace negotiations. "We have a meeting room prepared with lower gravity. You'll be more comfortable there." Veltries followed him slowly, each step an effort. He passed through corridors filled with humans who stopped to stare at him. They did not look afraid. They did not look impressed. They looked at him like he was a curiosity, a zoo animal, something strange and weak that had wandered into their territory. The meeting room was better. The gravity was reduced to something his body could handle. The lights were dimmed. The air was cooler and drier. But even here, Veltries could feel the truth pressing down on him. He had lost. He had been defeated by creatures he had called primitive. And now he understood why. Admiral Rachel Torres entered the room, followed by Commander Jake Miller and several other officers. They sat down across from Veltries and placed documents on the table between them. "High Sovereign Veltries," Rachel said. Her voice was calm and professional. "You are here to discuss the terms of peace between the Dravosi Dominion and the United Earth Government." Veltries nodded weakly. "What are your terms?" Ambassador Walsh slid a document across the table. "First, you will release all enslaved species in your territory. Every single one." Veltries felt something twist in his chest. The slaves were valuable. They did the work that kept his empire running. Losing them would be devastating, but he had no choice. He nodded. "Second," Walsh continued, "you will pay reparations to the Villani Confederation. Money, resources, and assistance in rebuilding what you destroyed." Another nod? What else could he do? "Third, you will submit to galactic oversight. Human observers will be stationed throughout your territory to ensure compliance with these terms. Your military will be reduced to defensive forces only. No more conquests. No more invasions. No more wars." Veltries looked at the humans sitting across from him. He had ruled 300 star systems. He had commanded armies that had destroyed 12 species. He had thought himself the most powerful being in the galaxy. And now he was signing away everything. "You could have destroyed us," he said quietly. "You could have done to us what we did to others. Why didn't you?" Admiral Torres leaned back in her chair. "Because that's not who we are. I don't understand." Jake Miller spoke up. His voice was softer than Veltries expected. "We didn't evolve on our death world by conquering everything around us. We survived by working together, by protecting each other, by building communities that could stand against anything." He paused, and his eyes met Veltris's. "We're protectors, High Sovereign. We protect those who can't protect themselves. The Villani couldn't fight you, so we fought for them. That's what Deathworlders do." Veltries was silent for a long moment. He thought about his empire. He thought about all the species he had destroyed. He thought about the fear and pain he had caused across hundreds of star systems, and he felt something he had never felt before. Something strange and uncomfortable. Shame. "There is a fourth term," Ambassador Walsh said gently. "One that might surprise you." Veltries looked up. "We are offering the Dravosi Dominion alliance with humanity." For a moment, Veltries thought he had misheard. "Alliance? But we attacked you. We tried to destroy you." "You did," Rachel said. "And you failed. But that doesn't mean we have to be enemies forever. You're not a threat to us anymore. And there are other dangers in this galaxy. Other empires that might not be as forgiving as we are." Walsh slid another document across the table. "Alliance, protection, trade, shared technology. We can help your people grow beyond conquest. We can show you a better way." Veltries stared at the document. His claws trembled as he picked it up. He read through the terms carefully. It was everything the humans had said. Alliance, friendship, protection. Mercy. The Dravosi had never shown mercy to their enemies. They had never imagined anyone showing mercy to them. Why? Veltries asked again. Why would you offer this to us after everything we did? Jake Miller smiled. It was a warm smile. A genuine smile. Because that's the difference between conquerors and protectors, High Sovereign. Conquerors destroy their enemies. Protectors help them become something better. Veltries signed the treaty. His hand shook, but he signed it. And when he was finished, something changed in his heart. The weight of 60 years of conquest lifted from his shoulders. He was no longer an emperor. He was no longer a conqueror. He was something new, something he had never been before. He was under protection of the Deathworlders. The peace treaty was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species, every empire, every civilization watched as the Dravosi Dominion fell and was raised up again as an ally of humanity. The message was clear. The Deathworlders were not just warriors. They were protectors. They would fight for the innocent. They would punish the cruel. And they would offer mercy to those who surrendered. On the Volani homeworld, the bird-like aliens watched the broadcast with tears in their large, gentle eyes. They had been saved. Their friends had come for them. And now they were safe. Sergeant Marcus Webb sat in a bar on the rebuilt Volani capital city. His Marines were around him, drinking and laughing and celebrating. They had won. They had saved millions of lives. They had done what Deathworlders did. Marcus raised his glass. To the Volani, he said. His soldiers raised their glasses too. To the Volani. Dr. Lisa Park was working in a new medical facility, helping Dravosi refugees adapt to life in the Alliance. Many of them were sick and confused and afraid. They had grown up in an empire that conquered and destroyed. They didn't know how to live any other way. Lisa was patient with them. She taught them about human medicine and science. She showed them how to help others instead of hurting them. Slowly, carefully, she helped them become something new. Commander Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the Relentless Dawn, looking out at the stars. The ship had been repaired after the battles. New crew members had joined to replace those lost. Everything was ready for the next mission. Emma Cole approached him. Commander, we're receiving reports of a distress signal from the Outer Rim. An unknown species is being attacked by raiders. Jake smiled. Set a course. Maximum speed. Yes, Commander. The ship hummed to life around him. The stars began to blur as they jumped to faster than light. Somewhere in the galaxy, innocent people were in danger. Somewhere, the helpless were being hurt by the cruel. And somewhere, the Deathworlders were coming. Admiral Rachel Torres looked out at Earth from her office window. The planet was blue and green and beautiful. It was a death world. A place that had tried to kill its inhabitants every day for millions of years. But those inhabitants had survived. They had grown strong. They had reached for the stars, and now they were protecting the galaxy. She thought about all the species out there who had never met humans, who had never heard of Deathworlders, who had never known what it felt like to have someone fight for them. Soon they would know. Soon everyone would know. Humans were Deathworlders. They came from a world of crushing gravity and burning sun and endless danger. They had survived everything their planet had thrown at them. And now they were throwing themselves at the galaxy. Not as conquerors. Not as destroyers. As protectors. Rachel smiled and turned back to her work. There was still so much to do. So many people to help. So many wrongs to right. The Deathworlders' work was never done. And that was exactly how they liked it. Outside her window, the stars waited. And in the darkness between them, human ships moved on missions of mercy and justice. The galaxy had called for help. The Deathworlders had answered. They always would.